Isaiah Briscoe was a 5-star recruit, a McDonald's All-American, and regarded by many as one of the top point guards in his entire class. But however, nobody's heard a single thing out of this guy in years, so it leaves us with the question today: what happened to this guy? What's good, y'all? I hope you're having a blessed day. I've been seeing for the longest people requesting a video on a player named Diamond Stone. He was a center that sort of fell off the map, so if you want to see me do a video on him, I just feel like many people don't, so if you do, let's get this video to 1,000 likes. Diamond Stone was one of the top centers in high school, but ever since high school he's fallen off, so if you want to see it, 1,000 likes. Thank you all so much for the support. Hope you guys enjoy. Now let's really get into this video. Isaiah Briscoe, man oh man, did this dude fall off. I'm sure some of you know who he is or you've heard of him, but I'm also certain that some of you haven't. It's gonna be a good story either way, so buckle your seatbelt, get you some popcorn, cause Storytime Matt is in the building and you're gonna feel my pain. Let's get into it. You already know, to get into things, we gotta throw it all the way back to where things started. Isaiah grew up in Newark, New Jersey. That's a mouthful, but that's where he started falling in love with the game. He was never the biggest, strongest, quickest, and he was never really the most talented. He had to work to get to where he was. What really separated him from his peers and the competition was the fact that he would eventually become talented, but not just yet. I know what some of you are thinking and saying, yo Matt, you're born with talent, and yes I agree, but you gotta know how to use it. When he was younger, he didn't really know how to put it into game effect. I hope that makes sense. It made sense in my head. Anyways, let's continue on. Eventually, he would move, but he stayed in the same state. He moved to a city that goes by the name of Union, New Jersey. The real game-changing and pivoting moment in his basketball career was in 7th grade. He was trying out for an AAU team and he didn't make the cut, so this added fuel to his fire. That summer of his 7th grade year is when he started working extremely hard. One thing that I found odd about him was that he repeated 8th grade twice. So he did 8th grade one time at a middle school in Union, but then he transferred and did it again at another school that went by the name of Good Shepherd Academy. Not too sure as to why he did 8th grade twice, but I think it helped him in the long run because he got to go back a class, and of course that would help anybody. He was so good, matter of fact, in his 2nd year of 8th grade, he got invited to the LeBron James Skills Academy camp. This was a big deal because only 3 players from the class of 2015 even got invited to go to this camp. He did okay at the camp, but after his 8th grade year, he transferred once again to St. Benedict's Preparatory School. I don't know why I said preparatory, it's just a prep school, but that's the technical term. When he was playing for this prep school, he helped lead them to a national high school championship game. They did lose on a last-second 3 to Montverde Academy, but just to get there, it was amazing. I know Briscoe would say that he doesn't feel good about it because just to get there, it's not good enough in his eyes, but to everyone else, that's a major accomplishment. What helped him in the recruiting rankings, and this helps all the kids out there, when you go to a big-time program, you get more recognition, even if you're not putting up 25 or 30 points. What some of you don't understand, that these coaches at these prep schools, they have connections to college coaches. I'd even go out and say that it's almost better to average 15 points per game at a prep school than to average 35 or 40 at a public school. We see it all the time, and I'm sure some of you even know a prime example of a kid who's at a public school and not getting any offers because he's not getting the attention he deserves. You can be good, and you can be averaging 45 or 50 points per game. But if no one's seeing it, what does it matter? So that's what really helped Briscoe get his name out there. And when it was all said and done for his sophomore season, he had really good stats. He averaged over 15 points per game, 4.5 assists, and 3.5 rebounds, and 2.3 steals. Not too bad if you had to ask me. A sophomore putting up those numbers, that's impressive. With things going really great at that school, you would think he'd finish his high school career there. But once again, he transferred. Before we go any farther, we gotta take notice that Isaiah has transferred already 4 to 5 times in this story, and at this point in time, he's not even a junior. I understand transferring 1 to 2 and maybe 3 times, but I never like to see a kid transfer more than 4 or 5 times because that's commitment issues. The school he transferred to went by the name of Roselle Catholic High School, and that was his junior season. I guess you could go out on a limb here and say it worked out for the best because he led this team to back-to-back state titles in 2014 and 2015. And as a senior, he averaged 21 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. Those numbers, they're not outstanding, they're not amazing. We've done videos where guys average 35 points per game, but they're solid. One thing I do want to throw in there is that the junior summer going into his senior year, he really rose up in the rankings because of his performance at the AAU level. He wound up leading his AAU New Jersey team to the 2014 Nike Peach Jam Final. And in the EYBL League, which is the Elite Youth Basketball League, he averaged over 19 points per game and 5 assists. For those of you that don't know, AAU is when you can really improve your ranking. Yes, it can go up a little during the high school season, but in AAU, you can go from the 90th player to the 5th best player. It's happened, and we've seen it before. There was even one time he got as high as the 10th best overall player in his class. But when it was said and done for his recruitment process, he was listed as a 5-star recruit and the 13th best player, which is still unreal. And of course, he was also named to the McDonald's All-American game and the Jordan Brand Classic game. He got almost every award you could. And going into college, he was listed at roughly 6'3" and 200 pounds. For his recruitment process, it was pretty clear and cut. He had one team in mind, and that team that he focused on was no other than Kentucky. He officially committed to Kentucky on November 13th in 2014, and this was on live TV on ESPNU. And at the time, listen to this because I thought it was crazy. He was the 3rd highest ranked point guard that John Calipari had ever signed at the school. You gotta think about it, that's a big deal because John Calipari, he signed some studs. And here's what Isaiah Briscoe had to say about it. Kentucky puts me in the best position to play basketball after college. Calipari puts you on the highest stage. The last couple of years, all his point guards have been to the NBA. I'm just trying to be the next one. Well, about that quote, let's just say it's ironic and it's kind of foreshadowing. You can tell in that quote that all he was focused on, it really wasn't Kentucky, but it was getting to the NBA. And maybe that's what eventually would hurt him. But you're gonna have to stick it out and wait and see what really happens, because it's pretty interesting. Briscoe is, how do I say this? He's one of the hardest players that I've ever had to even try to evaluate on this channel. Coming in at roughly 6'3" and 200 pounds like we stated, he has a weird body build. I wouldn't really say he was built like he was ripped or had a lot of muscles, but he wasn't skinny either and he wasn't chubby or fat. Okay, after thinking about what I just said, I know that sounds weird, but what I'm trying to say is that most of your point guards going into college and even the NBA, they're more on the skinny side. They're skinny and then they put on muscle going into college or going into the NBA. Where it was different for Isaiah Briscoe, he was more on the hefty side, I guess we'll say that. 6'3", 200, that's not really light. It's not chubby either, it's a weird body build like I said. We haven't seen it before, at least at the time. Hold on, pause. I know what some of you are thinking. Yo Matt, what does this have to do with anything? Well, it plays a factor, and let me just continue to go on. It wasn't just his body build that was strange, it was also the way he played. Yes, he was a 5-star recruit and ranked in the top 15, but no NBA scouts were ever excited about him. And the reason for that is because he's not insanely athletic, he's not insanely talented, he just does the fundamentals the right way. He wasn't going to wow you with anything. He was a really good player. He wasn't going to do anything exceptional. Not the fastest, not the quickest, and not the tallest, and not the best shooter on the court. Doesn't really add up for an ideal prospect going into the NBA. I'm not hating on the dude at all, I'm just stating the obvious. Anyways, moving on with this video, we still have a long way to go, so let's get back on track. Me personally, I watch a lot of the SEC like most of you should know, and I remember when he got to Kentucky and I was never really impressed with him. For a 5-star recruit and to be ranked as the top point guard in his class, he didn't really look like it. Don't get me wrong, and I mean this, do not get me wrong. I thought he was a good player, but I never thought he was a great player. Here's what I mean by this. If you wouldn't have told me what his ranking was when I saw him play, there's no way I would have thought he was a 5-star recruit. maybe a 3-star. You know what I'm trying to say. When you see a 5-star recruit, it's really easy to tell because they do something that's fantastic, and that's why they stand out. In high school, he never stood out to me, and even in college, he didn't stand out to me. And I'm saying me, but it wasn't just me. This was the case for a lot of people, NBA executives and scouts. It doesn't just stop there. That was also the case for many Kentucky fans, because some of them were disappointed in his play, especially his first year. So let's get into it. With Isaiah being one of the best point guards that John Calipari has ever landed at the time, he was expected to come in and produce right away. He did just that, and you could say that he had a good freshman season. For the year 2015 through 16, he started every single game but one. In those games, he averaged roughly 9.5 points per game, 5 rebounds and 3 assists. But this is where the big red flag comes up. When you hear and look at those stats as a freshman, you're like, yo Matt, those are really good and maybe even really great. And they are, I agree, but we gotta talk about this. From the field, he shot a very solid 44%, but from the 3-point line, it was horrendous and maybe even the worst 3-point shooting performance I've ever seen. He only shot 13.5% for that entire season. 13.5. Yes, that's right. You heard me correctly. 13.5 for a point guard. How do I say this? That's not ideal. It's unacceptable. And especially at that time, this is when NBA teams were looking for the next quote-unquote Steph Curry or the Trae Young that eventually would come. 2015 and 16, that was right around the time when Stephen Curry was taking over the league by storm. I also believe, I'm not going to look it up, but it was also around the same time he won back-to-back MVPs. So, yeah, you got teams looking for the next Steph Curry, and you got this guy, Isaiah, who shot 13% from the 3-point line. I really feel bad for him because just because of that one single flaw in his game, it made his entire freshman season look bad. But if you take away that 3-point stat, everything else, it looks great. I don't even have to say this, it's quite obvious. NBA teams were scared of his 3-point percentage, and that's the only thing they were really worried about. Well, hold on, let me backtrack on that. I lied. They were also worried about his athletic ability. At the college level on defense, he was fine, and I think he'd even be a okay and good defender in the NBA. What hurt him was his size. He was only roughly 6'3", so even if he was a good defender, if someone's 6'6" or 6'7", they could shoot right over him. He was a solid and good college player. I'll say that, and I'll leave it at that. He was a smart player and played the game right and didn't make too many mistakes. He was very good in the pick and roll situation, good on defense, but he wasn't a guy that was gonna go get you a bucket when you needed it. If he would have shot 35 or maybe just 30% from the 3-point line, he could have entered the draft and gotten drafted, but that's what really hurt him, so he had to come back for his second season. In that second season, 2016 through 17, things didn't get much better. Everything improved, but it wasn't really nothing drastic. He started every single game, and he bumped his points per game up to 12.1, his assists to 4.2, and his rebounds were roughly at 5. We don't care about that. What you guys want to hear is how was his 3-point percentage. I have some good news. He not only improved his field goal percentage, but he also improved his 3-point percentage. From the field, he improved that to 47%, and from the 3-point line, he did improve it, but only to 28.8. I mean, that's okay, and it's good that he improved it. There was really no option. You couldn't get much worse than 13%. He did improve it, but it's still below average, so not that good. And yes, he did increase his points, but it was only by 2 to 3 to 12. It's not like he went from 9 points per game to 20. Then we'd be having a completely different conversation. He thought he was good enough, and he proved enough in that second year to go to the NBA and get drafted. I really can't fault him. A lot of people thought he should come back for his third and maybe fourth year to get better and improve his draft stock, but I didn't see it getting much higher anyway, so why not take a chance? I think he made the right decision putting his name in the NBA draft because he wasn't going to get that much better. He could have increased his stats to maybe 13, 14, or 15 points per game, but nothing higher than that. To sum it up and to put it in a conclusion, some of you may disagree with this, but I think it's spot on. He was a good college basketball player and nothing more. His 3-point percentage, it does look bad, and it looks really bad, but everything besides that, it was fine, so I'm not going to knock him for having one bad stat. I think you know where this story is going. In 2017, he entered his name in the NBA draft, but he went undrafted. It didn't shock anybody, maybe it shocked him, but I don't think so. After going undrafted, he would join the Philadelphia 76ers for the 2017 NBA Summer League. And in 6 games for this team and in the league, he averaged 5.5 points and 2 assists. He bounced back and forth between a couple of teams and played in multiple summer leagues, but in 2018, he signed a contract with an overseas team. The team and program or club he signed with went by the name of the Estonian Club. I also was reading and saw that this is a Latvia club, so if you know where that's at, drop it in the comments. In this league, he was one of the best players because he won an award for being one of the best players under the age of 23. And in that 2017 through 18 year, he averaged a whopping 18.5 points per game, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. So within the span of only 1 year, he went from being a Kentucky player to the Summer League and getting traded multiple times to being a star player in some random overseas league. I'm sure that made him somewhat happy and boosted his confidence, but the ultimate goal for him was to get to the NBA, so he tried once again. On July 6 in 2018, he signed with the Orlando Magic, and he made his NBA debut on October 19th in 2018. So technically, he made it to the NBA, and we gotta clap it up and give credit where it's due. He never gave up on his dreams, and I got respect for that. In his debut, it wasn't a normal one. He wasn't running around like a chicken with his head cut off. He actually was productive. He had 10 points and 3 assists off the bench. The only reason he even played, I do gotta say this, is because it was in a blowout loss, but who cares? He played. But sadly, after his brief stint with the Magic, on April 4th in 2019, he was waived. I think he realized and felt like he wasn't going to be a NBA player, so he wound up going to another overseas team right after that for the season 2019 through 20. I've never even heard of this league, but in 2019 he signed a contract with the BBL, which is a basketball Bundesliga league. I have no idea what or where that is, but he joined them. And for this league, it was okay. He averaged 7.6 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, and 2.1 assists. I think that's why nobody really talks about or knows what happened to this guy, because it's mysterious. But on February 1st in 2020, he went to a different team and signed with a team that goes by the name of King Shasharian out of the PLK League. I know I'm mispronouncing all of these, but I've never even heard of these leagues he's joining. I feel like he's just making them up. But hold on, there's more. After joining that league, he eventually went to the Iowa Wolves out of the G League, so he's back in the US. And here's the crazy thing. So he joined the PLK League, which is the Polish club league, but he never even played a game with them. I found that situation just odd and strange. Why would you join a Poland basketball league and then leave without playing a game? I don't even know how we ended up at this point. We had a 5-star recruit who was one of the best players in the country, went to one of the best colleges in the country for basketball at least, and now he went to a Poland basketball club. I've never even heard of a Polish basketball team or club, so that's just mind-boggling to me, and I don't even want to think about it too much. But as for the up-to-date, and the only information I have on him now is that currently he's playing or associated with the Iowa Wolves in the G League as of 2021. Wow, that's the only word I know to say about his basketball career. It was one heck of a journey, and it's still going on. Technically, he made it to the NBA, but he didn't live up to the hype and the expectation by any means. I think his biggest downfall, and I hate to say this about him, was that he was never really that great of a basketball player. He never had NBA talent. He couldn't jump out of the gym, he wasn't extremely quick or explosive like many other players, and he was a terrible 3-point shooter. If he was 6'6" or 6'7", he may have made it, but if you're an undersized point guard and you're under 6'4", you gotta be able to shoot the 3 ball, and he couldn't, so that's why he didn't make it. I'm not gonna sit up here and act like we don't know why he didn't make it. It's clear and obvious. I do gotta give him credit though, and he's got my respect because he never gave up, and he did make it to the NBA and even played in a game. He's got my respect, and he's still going on, so his basketball career and story is not over quite yet, but as far as being a good or even average player in the NBA, I think that talk is over. I'm wishing Isaiah Briscoe the best of luck, not only in basketball, but whatever he chooses to do, and hope he has a bright future, and good luck, man. Let me know in the comment section what you think about all this, but with all that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you boys and girls enjoyed. Hope you learned something. Say it right, man. Hope you learned something. Gosh, man, always messing up my outros, but y'all already know the vibes. Let's be great. Road to 2 milli. I'm out, y'all. Peace.